So, you were talking about that song, you got to back that gain way down, right? In order so it doesn't just all just kind of mush together into something that's incoherent. So, in the situation where you're backing the gain down for the rhythm part and you get to the lead and all of a sudden you need that boost, my question is what do you feel is better to get that boost? Is it, like some sort of treble boost pedal, or gain stacking, perhaps, maybe, just adding another pedal that has a little more gain to it for the leads and the solos?
Yeah.
Or is there another method that you think is better to try and get that gain back while you're playing?
Well, yeah. There, it depends on your setup and it depends on your tools. You know, so ideally, if we're talking about like the hard rock style Guns N' Roses Slash, he doesn't play with a ton of gain. But when you take these Marshalls and you have a crunch tone and maybe a treble boost pedal or a slight overdrive. Now, sometimes I've used both of those. I don't use distortion pedals like high gain pedals. I will always use, I'll either use a high gain amp, maybe with no pedal, but usually I front end it with either a treble boost and just to give a extra bite, just a little bit, or most commonly like a tube overdrive, which is just turned up a little bit, something, whether it's like a tube screamer or something like that. That's not, again, not high gain, but it just pushes it over the top, gives it a little bit more, a little more attack, and it gives it a little bit better sustain. But, to go back to the Guns N' Roses example, so I might do it to get that kind of a tone, but most of the sustain is coming from the power tubes. So if you crank that thing up loud, you've got the feedback loop, of course, because you're in the room. The air is carrying the sound waves. The sound waves are hitting the strings, and sympathetic vibration makes those strings keep ringing. So with not too much gain, but a lot of volume, you get sustain. It's really sustain that's more important in the lead area than gain. We use gain to get sustain, but if you get sustain without so much gain, that's fine. So it depends on the tools, whatever you're using. I'm using the Axe 3, so I will, probably front end it with, the pedal that I seem to like the best on this particular setup works great with all the different amps is their emulation of the Rat distortion pedal. And I usually use the gain at a 3 or a 4, and then the tone might be a 5, so, not super biting, not dull, tone pretty much in the middle. The gain, the pedal itself thins it a little bit, adds a little bit extra bite, but usually that gain is pretty low. Sometimes I've done a treble boost. If the amp is extra fat and thick, treble boost works really good, but it depends on the amp I'm running into. So, some of the Mesa, like Mark IV amp or something, treble boost sounds really good on that one. Treble boost sounds good on a JCM 800, I think, because it's a very fat sounding. The crunch channel on that amp is really kind of fat and thick, kind of needs something to thin it. Some of the others, though, like when I use the angle modeling, I don't use a gain in front of that at all. It's a 3-stage high gain amp, and I don't even use a pedal on the front of it. But again, that's like rip your head off kind of tearing grit, it's already like that. The other thing I would say, though, about getting the kind of tone where we're wanting to back off gain, one of the biggest tricks that has been used for a long time to get more definition in like strumming kind of rhythms is to mix a clean tone into the gain tone. I don't know if I talked about that in this lesson either. I know I've been talking about it in a couple of different lessons here that I forget which ones I talk about it in. But, typically what that does is that gives some definition, like you slide the clean tone in from the same performance. It's not a different performance. It's you just tap the clean tone and then put it in there, and that will give what's really a mushy gain tone. It'll give it some clarity. And one of the things that I might do is what was I going to say? I wanted to say this. If you're playing in the room in a practice situation with your amp, you can often get away with more gain there because you're hearing the acoustic strings in the room. And depending on your guitar, sometimes that can be pretty loud, They cut through and they give, kind of a brightness, but they basically what you're doing when you play like that is you're mixing in the clean tone with the gain tone. I used to, when I produced, I remember one band I produced a demo or an album for, I think like 20 years ago or more. The bass player really wanted the attack of his strings, the bright attack, the rattle on his strings. And it wasn't coming through his amp very well. And we just stuck a mic right on his fingers live, hearing the acoustic sound of the rattle of the strings sounded great. And we mixed that clean tone in. It's the same thing, whether you get it from the room or any other way. Now, the thing is, though, if you take your tone and you're going to say, okay, I'm going to record myself playing this song, you take the output of your amp and go direct, and now you don't have your clean tone that you hear in the room. You just have the gain tone. You might find that doesn't sound very good because now all of a sudden you're back to the mush. And, a couple of options, you can, I guess the old school way is you take your plug and when you go to the input of your amp, you put a Y chord and you take it out of that and you run to another input and just record your actual clean electric guitar sound, the same tone you'd use to reamp, or whatever. But anyway, maybe compress it and then just mix it in there. So a couple of ideas there. The bottom line is whatever works, though. I think I might have strayed off the point. What was the point?
The question was which method do you prefer? Is it gain stacking or just some sort of boost? And I think you answered the question. I feel like you answered that.
Yeah. Back to the some of both, and generally speaking, I have always found that if I can get the sustain with less gain, I'm happier with it in the result. But on the other hand, if you're really going for, you want metal and you want that full intensity, you got to have that if that's what you want to create. It's all about what the sound you're trying to create,